If you follow all the official Gooseworx accounts, the creators of the amazing digital circus, you probably noticed that they posted several teasers about episode 2. There were 4 different photos talking about the new episode. But what do all these images really mean? How do they really connect with the end of the pilot episode? What new improvements will we have? All this and more great news we have in this video. Let's start by explaining the first image where we have Kinger, Ragatha and Jax. So far we know that the episode 2 of the digital circus is gonna take place in Candy Canyon, and previously we had other teasers about this. In one of these, we could see that there's a carriage with what appears to be a gummy elephant. So the most obvious thing is that the characters are inside this carriage, possibly traveling from the circus tent to the Candy Canyon. Although I don't think this theory could be somewhat true, since as we saw in the pilot episode, the digital world seems to be just a piece of land, and Candy Canyon is nowhere near to be seen. So I believe that in reality, they could have gotten there thanks to all of the doors that they showed us on a map that shows what's inside the circus tent. Maybe all these doors represent a different episode through which the characters will be able to transport themselves to the places that will be in the future. But what is really happening in this image? Why does Ragatha look like she's about to explode? Well, if we remember very well in the pilot episode, the person who spent most time with Ragatha, or had more of a connection, was Pomni. Ragatha from the beginning wanted to be Pomni's friend and help her understand everything about the digital circus. But after they found Kaufmo abstracted and he infected Ragatha, we remember that Pomni ran in search of the exit door, and practically left Ragatha there abandoned. Later, at the end of the episode in the dinner scene, we saw that they distanced themselves and didn't sit together. So possibly Ragatha got very upset with Pomni, and that's why now in this new adventure the two of them separated, and they did the mission in different teams. On one side we had Kinger, Jax and Ragatha, and on the other side we had Pomni, Zubul and Gangle. So unfortunately friends, in this second episode we may see how the friendship between Pomni and Ragatha breaks apart. As for what's happening in the image, we definitely know that Jax loves to play jokes on Ragatha a lot. They even showed this from the first trailers of the pilot episode. It's most likely that Jax said or did something to Ragatha to make her start losing her mind. It's thought that at some point Jax will make Ragatha lose control so much that she'll become abstracted, but I don't think this will happen in the second episode. But one character we had many doubts about was Kinger. And I don't say this because of the first image that we're analyzing, but because of the second image, where they put everything blurry. Let's start by analyzing the first image with Kinger. He looks completely confused about what's going on, and in reality, I just think they're representing Kinger's personality. Since from the pilot episode, he showed himself to be a completely confused character, who even from time to time loses track. There are even times when he's spoken to and doesn't respond, and times when he seems to be simply confused non-stop. So there's no problem here. Where there's a problem is in the second image. What I think is that here Kinger once again started shaking very hard as he did in the pilot episode. Although some people say that possibly it was because the carriage accelerated in a very abrupt way. And this gave the visual effect that we have with Kinger. Maybe Jax threw a gummy mouse to the elephant? Although I have a theory, and I'd like you to tell me what you think in the comments. I believe that the reason Kinger shakes, as we saw in the pilot episode, hides something that will be revealed to us in future episodes. We know that Kinger is one of the strangest characters in the digital circus, so maybe every time he trembles, it means something very deep for the story. Maybe in every single one of the new episodes he'll be shaking at least once. And possibly that's his way of fighting abstraction, or maybe because little by little Kinger is gonna glitch to be abstracted. I don't know, what do you think guys? As for the third image, we have Pomni, who seems to have a face expressing she's already fed up with something. Possibly from hearing Jax joke so much. Or it may have to do with one of the new NPCs they showed us. Maybe it's Gummy Goo, explaining the game they're going to have in this new episode. A game in which Pomni definitely doesn't want to participate. Or it may also be that they're talking about other things that Pomni doesn't understand. Like in the pilot episode, when they talked about the glowings, and Pomni had no idea what they were talking about. Or simply because she went from being completely scared to being very pessimistic. And I say this because when we had the teaser with Kane and Pomni, she seemed completely uninterested in what Kane was saying. Maybe here in this image, they wanted to show us Pomni's new attitude, and now we see it confirmed with these previews we have of episode 2. And finally we have an image of Jax, who seems to be coming out of a tunnel. The truth is that this image doesn't give us a lot of information, and we can only have a few theories about what's going on. Let's start with what we already had in the pilot episode, when Jax took Kinger and Gangle through a passage to get to the glowing queen. Maybe here Jax, with his ability to have access to all the doors of the digital circus, opened a passage to enter some part of the castle of the Candy Kingdom. And other people think that this could be a hatch for a train car. Although I don't think this is likely, since when they showed us the Candy Canyon from afar, we saw that it is a very small place to have a train near there. But now let's go with the most popular theories about what this new episode is gonna be about. First we have the idea that this game is gonna be in style of Mario Kart. As we remember, the creator said she was very inspired by Mario games to make animations and certain attitudes in the digital circus, just like it was with Pomni's vomit. So it wouldn't be strange to have a Mario Kart style track in a place full of sand and candies. Another theory tells us that now we'll have the characters of the digital circus divided in groups of 2. We'll have Jax and Gangle working on their digital job to get the minimum wage, Kinger and Subul in the haunted house, and finally Pomni and Ragatha in the Candy Canyon. Kane will give each group a mission, which they must complete, or else they'll be eliminated from the digital circus. And finally we have the theory that each episode is gonna be a level which the characters have to complete, and if they manage to complete them all, they'll be able to escape from the digital circus. Wow, those are some crazy theories. Do you have any others? But together, all these images bring us very good news, since Gooseworx usually takes a long time to release new episodes of the projects they work on. And in the case of the digital circus, the first teaser images they gave us for the pilot episode were designs of the characters that weren't even finished. But now for episode 2, we had these very detailed images, so possibly this new episode is gonna be released much earlier and not in May. And apart from what we saw in the other teasers, with these new images we realized that even the animations have improved a lot, even though in the pilot episode everything was excellently animated and very realistic. And now with this new episode, we realize that the characters have many more details, and even the animations have become more complex. In the end, friends, what do you have to say about these images? We'll see you in the comments.